I'm Brooke Wilson, 34, and until last Tuesday, I thought I had the perfect life with my husband Ryan of 8 years. We met a decade ago, built our dream home, and I had Amanda, my college bestie, just 3 blocks away. That Tuesday changed everything. While running errands during lunch, I spotted Ryan's silver Audi parked a block from Amanda's house when he should have been at work. My stomach dropped instantly. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, so I parked and decided to follow on foot. The confusion and betrayal hitting me in waves as I walked closer to my best friend's house. Before I continue with what happened next, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to hear how I discovered the shocking truth behind my husband's secret visits and why the person following him would change everything. Ryan and I met at my cousin's wedding 10 years ago. He was the best man, looking incredibly handsome in his tailored suit, and I was a bridesmaid. We locked eyes across the reception hall, and it was like something out of a movie. He approached me with a confident smile and asked me to dance. I remember thinking how comfortable I felt in his arms, like I'd known him my entire life. By the end of the night, we'd exchanged numbers, and within 6 months, we were inseparable. Our wedding 2 years later was everything I'd dreamed of, a garden ceremony at sunset with our closest friends and family. Amanda was my maid of honor, of course. She'd been there through every relationship disaster I'd experienced before Ryan, always encouraging me not to settle until I found someone truly worthy of my love. When I introduced her to Ryan, she'd given me a subtle thumbs up when he wasn't looking. Her approval meant everything to me. After 8 years of marriage, we'd built a beautiful life together. Our home in Maple Ridge Estates was the envy of our friends, a modern craftsman with a gourmet kitchen where I loved to host dinner parties, and a backyard perfect for summer barbecues. Ryan had worked his way up to senior financial advisor at Anderson & Blackwell, one of the most prestigious firms in the city. I had built my interior design business from scratch, and now had a small team working for me and a portfolio of high-end clients. From the outside looking in, we were the perfect couple. We went on regular date nights, took exciting vacations, and still made each other laugh. Ryan would bring me coffee in bed every Sunday morning, and I kept a stash of his favorite craft beers for when he had a stressful day at work. We talked about starting a family soon, agreeing that we wanted to be financially secure and enjoy our time as a couple before bringing children into the mix. Amanda had been my best friend since our freshman year of college when we were randomly assigned as roommates. She was outgoing and confident, the perfect balance to my more cautious personality. She pushed me to try new things and take risks I wouldn't have on my own. When my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer during our junior year, Amanda was there for every tearful phone call and anxious hospital visit. She'd drive me home on weekends so I could help with my mom's care, then help me catch up on coursework when we returned. Our friendship had weathered many storms, my mother's illness, she recovered, thankfully, Amanda's painful breakup with her college boyfriend, my career changes, her divorce 3 years ago. No matter what life threw at us, we remained constants in each other's lives. We had a standing coffee date every Wednesday morning, and a monthly girls' night with our small circle of friends. Amanda had been there for every important moment in my relationship with Ryan, from giving me advice during our first fight to helping plan our anniversary surprises. Which is why seeing Ryan's car near her house that Tuesday felt like a double betrayal. The changes in Ryan's behavior had been subtle at first, so subtle that I'd dismissed them as work stress. About 3 months ago, he started working late more often, citing a major client project that required extra attention. I didn't question it, his job was demanding, and these intense periods happened occasionally. But then other things started to shift. He became oddly protective of his phone, taking it with him even for quick trips to the bathroom. The man who used to leave his phone anywhere, often forgetting where he'd put it, suddenly seemed attached to it. When texts came in, he'd angle the screen away from me slightly, not obviously enough to raise immediate alarm, but enough that I'd noticed the change. Our conversations became shorter, with Ryan seeming distracted and offering one-word responses to my questions about his day. The affectionate touches, a hand on my shoulder as he passed, a quick kiss when he came home, became less frequent. He started running quick errands on weekends that would stretch into hours, returning with vague explanations about traffic or running into a colleague. I told myself I was being paranoid. Ryan had never given me any reason to doubt his fidelity before. We'd always been honest with each other, it was the foundation of our relationship. So I pushed my concerns aside, tried to be extra supportive, brought home his favorite takeout on nights he worked late, and gave him space when he seemed to need it. Then came that Tuesday. I had taken a half day to prepare for a client presentation, but realized I'd left some fabric samples at my office. On my way back home, I decided to stop by a new home decor boutique that had opened near Amanda's neighborhood. That's when I saw it, Ryan's silver Audi with the small dent on the rear bumper, from when he'd backed into a pole at the grocery store last winter, parked on a side street about a block from Amanda's house. I drove past it slowly, thinking I must be mistaken. But the personalized license plate confirmed it, Rywell's, definitely Ryan's car. I circled the block, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. What was Ryan doing in Amanda's neighborhood at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday? He should have been at his office downtown, with back-to-back client meetings according to what he'd told me that morning. I found a parking spot a few streets away, my mind racing with possibilities, each more painful than the last. Maybe he was planning a surprise for me with Amanda's help? But his recent behavior suggested otherwise. The secrecy, the distance, the emotional withdrawal, it all pointed to something I didn't want to acknowledge. I sat in my car for several minutes, trying to calm my racing heart and decide what to do. Confront him immediately? Call Amanda? Drive away and pretend I hadn't seen anything? None of the options felt right. Finally, I made the decision that would change everything. I would follow him on foot and see what was happening with my own eyes. I walked slowly toward Amanda's street, my legs feeling like lead with each step. The spring afternoon was unseasonably warm, but I felt a chill running through me. My hands were trembling so badly I had to shove them into my pockets. As I approached the corner that would give me a view of Amanda's craftsman bungalow, I slowed even further, afraid of what I might see. I positioned myself behind a large oak tree across the street, about half a block down. From there, I had a clear view of Amanda's front door without being too obvious. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat, making it difficult to swallow. Sweat beaded along my hairline despite the cool shade of the tree. I checked my watch, 2:17 p.m. Ryan's car was here, but I hadn't seen him yet. Was he already inside? How long had he been here? My mind created painful scenarios with each passing minute. I considered calling him, but what would I say? Hey, honey, just wondering why you're at my best friend's house when you're supposed to be at work. No, I needed to understand what was happening before I confronted either of them. At 2:23 p.m., I saw Ryan walking up the street toward Amanda's house. He was carrying a small gift bag, emerald green with silver tissue paper poking out the top. Amanda's favorite colors. My stomach twisted into a painful knot. He looked around casually before approaching her door, the way someone does when they're making sure they're not being observed. The secretive gesture felt like a confirmation of my worst fears. What happened next made my knees nearly buckle. Instead of ringing the doorbell, Ryan pulled out a key and let himself in. A key to my best friend's house. A key I didn't know he had. The casual familiarity of the action suggested this wasn't the first time. How long had this been going on? How many times had he visited while telling me he was working late or running errands? I leaned against the tree, suddenly feeling like I might vomit. My chest felt tight, my breathing shallow and rapid. The betrayal was overwhelming, not just from Ryan, but from Amanda. The two people I trusted most in the world, the two people who knew all my vulnerabilities, my hopes, my fears. How could they do this to me? I slid down until I was sitting on the grass, hidden by the large trunk of the oak tree, and let the tears come. Hot, angry tears that blurred my vision and left mascara tracks down my cheeks. I wanted to storm across the street, throw open the door with the key I also had to Amanda's house, and catch them red-handed. But another part of me, the part that had always been practical and methodical, urged caution. If I confronted them now, driven by raw emotion, I might not get the full truth. I needed to think strategically. After a few minutes of silent crying, I pulled myself together. I wiped my face with a tissue from my purse and took several deep breaths. I needed to see more, to understand the full extent of their deception before I decided how to proceed. I walked to a small coffee shop 2 doors down from Amanda's house, one with outdoor seating that gave me a clear view of her front door. I ordered an iced latte I had no intention of drinking and settled in to wait. The cold glass sweated in my hand, drops of condensation rolling down my fingers like the tears I was fighting to hold back. I pulled out my phone, checking the time every few minutes. I was tempted to call Amanda, to call Ryan, to call my sister, to call anyone who might help make sense of this nightmare. But I resisted. Instead, I scrolled through recent text messages between Ryan and me, looking for clues I might have missed. Working late tonight, don't wait up. Love you. Got to run to the office for a few hours on Saturday, big client emergency. Stuck in traffic, be home in an hour. How many of these messages had been lies? How many times had he been with Amanda while I sat at home, trusting and oblivious? My mind wandered to other moments that suddenly seemed suspicious. 3 weeks ago, when Ryan had acted strangely when I mentioned Amanda's name over dinner. His odd reaction when I suggested inviting her to join us for a weekend trip last month. He'd claimed it should be just us when he'd never minded her company before. The 2 occasions in the past month when Amanda had cancelled our standing coffee date at the last minute with vague excuses. The afternoon I'd called both of them within an hour of each other, and neither had answered. All these moments, insignificant at the time, now formed a pattern that made my stomach churn. How had I been so blind? My phone buzzed with a text, startling me so badly I nearly dropped it. It was from Amanda. Hey B, need to talk to you about something important. Can you meet tomorrow? It's kinda urgent. The casual tone, the absence of any acknowledgement that my husband was currently in her house, made me want to throw my phone across the street. What game was she playing? Was this part of their plan, to tell me about their affair on their terms? Or was it about something else entirely? I stared at the message, my thumbs hovering over the keyboard. Should I respond? Pretend everything was normal? Confront her via text? None of these options felt right. I decided not to respond at all. Let her wonder. Let her worry. For once, I would be the one with information they didn't know I had. I put my phone away and settled in to wait, the untouched latte warming in the afternoon sun. I sat at that coffee shop table for exactly 1 hour and 7 minutes, hardly moving except to check my phone or scan Amanda's house for any sign of movement. The ice in my latte had long since melted, turning the drink into a watery, unappetizing mess. A few times, the barista glanced at me with concern, probably wondering why a woman in business casual was sitting alone, barely touching her drink, and staring intensely across the street. At 3:30 p.m., Amanda's front door opened, and Ryan stepped out. I instinctively slouched lower in my chair, though I was far enough away that he was unlikely to notice me. He looked relaxed, nothing like the distracted, tense man he'd been at home recently. He checked his watch, then pulled out his phone and made a call as he walked to his car. I was faced with a decision: confront Amanda immediately or follow Ryan. The betrayal by my best friend cut deeper in many ways. We'd been through everything together, and I'd trusted her implicitly. But something pushed me to follow Ryan instead. Perhaps it was the calm, almost satisfied expression on his face, or maybe just the practical reality that he was mobile while Amanda would still be at her house later. I threw a few dollars on the table for a tip and hurried to my car, keeping my head down as I passed the street where Ryan was still on his phone, leaning against his Audi. I managed to get to my car and start the engine just as he was pulling away from the curb. Following someone in real life is nothing like in the movies. I had to stay far enough back to avoid being noticed but close enough not to lose him in traffic. At each red light, my anxiety spiked, worried he might glance in his rearview mirror and spot my blue Honda. I kept at least one car between us at all times, which made the pursuit even more stressful. Ryan drove toward the other side of town, an area I wasn't as familiar with. It was more commercial than our residential neighborhood, with small businesses and boutique shops lining the streets. After about 20 minutes, he pulled into a parking space in front of a store with a discreet storefront, Ellis Fine Jewelry. A jewelry store. Was he buying Amanda a gift? Something more significant than the small bag he'd already brought her? My hands tightened on the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. I found a parking spot about half a block away, angled so I could see the entrance to the jewelry store but wasn't directly in Ryan's line of sight if he came out. I watched as Ryan entered the store, greeting the security guard at the door with a familiar nod. He'd clearly been there before. I considered going closer, perhaps pretending to window shop so I could see what he was doing inside, but the risk of being caught was too high. Instead, I settled in to wait once again, the afternoon stretching into a series of painful surveillances. About 5 minutes after Ryan entered the store, a sleek black BMW pulled into a space a few doors down. A woman emerged, tall, professionally dressed in a tailored pantsuit, with a leather portfolio tucked under her arm. She had an air of confidence, the kind that comes from years of professional success. She appeared to be in her early 40s, with shoulder-length brown hair and an athletic build. I didn't recognize her at all. She walked briskly to the jewelry store and entered without hesitation. Through the large front window, I could see her greeted Ryan with a warm smile. He stood to meet her, and they exchanged a brief but familiar hug, the kind between people who know each other well. They spoke animatedly, with Ryan gesturing expressively and the woman nodding in understanding. My heart, which I thought couldn't sink any lower, found a new bottom. Not only was my husband having an affair with my best friend, but there appeared to be yet another woman involved. Was Ryan living some kind of double life? Or was this woman connected to Amanda somehow? I felt simultaneously relieved and more confused. If this woman was involved with Ryan romantically, did that mean Amanda wasn't? Or was my husband carrying on multiple affairs? None of the scenarios my mind created made any sense, and none eased the pain of betrayal. I grabbed my phone and quickly took several photos of Ryan and the mystery woman through the store window. They were speaking with a salesperson now, looking at something in a display case. The interaction seemed oddly businesslike for a romantic rendezvous, but what did I know? My perception of reality had been completely shattered in the span of a few hours. After about 20 minutes in the store, Ryan and the woman emerged together. The salesperson handed Ryan a small bag, black with gold lettering, the store's logo embossed on the side. Ryan checked the contents briefly, then nodded in satisfaction. He and the woman walked toward their respective cars, still engaged in conversation. What happened next made me gasp out loud. As they prepared to part ways, Ryan leaned in and gave the woman a quick kiss on the cheek, his hand resting familiarly on her upper arm. It wasn't the passionate embrace of lovers, but it certainly suggested an intimacy beyond casual acquaintance. The woman smiled, said something that made Ryan laugh, then got into her BMW and drove away. Ryan stood watching her car leave, then checked his watch again. He pulled out his phone, made another call, this one shorter, then got into his Audi and pulled out of the parking space. I didn't follow him this time. I knew where he was likely headed, back to our home, to pretend he'd been at work all day, to kiss me hello as if he hadn't just betrayed everything we'd built together. Instead, I sat in my car, trying to process everything I'd witnessed. The pieces didn't fit together. If Ryan was having an affair with Amanda, why was he meeting another woman at a jewelry store? If he was involved with both women, why bring them gifts on the same day? And if the gifts were innocent, why all the secrecy? There was only one person who might have answers to at least some of these questions, Amanda. Despite the pain of her apparent betrayal, she was still the most direct route to understanding what was happening. With a deep breath and renewed determination, I started my car and headed back to her house. The drive back to Amanda's house felt both endless and too short. My emotions swung wildly between rage, heartbreak, and a desperate hope that there was some explanation for all of this that wouldn't destroy the foundations of my life. I rehearsed what I would say to her, trying to find words that could possibly convey the magnitude of her betrayal if she had indeed been carrying on with Ryan behind my back. How could you? Too cliché. I saw Ryan at your house. Too accusatory without giving her a chance to explain. Is there something you want to tell me about my husband? Better, but still too leading. In the end, I decided direct honesty was the only approach. I would tell her exactly what I'd seen and demand answers. Our friendship of almost 15 years deserved at least that much. By the time I pulled up in front of Amanda's house, it was nearly 5 p.m. The afternoon shadows were lengthening, casting her front yard in golden light that felt mockingly beautiful given the circumstances. Her car was still in the driveway, a red Subaru she'd bought after her divorce was finalized. I parked behind it, effectively blocking her in. A petty move, perhaps, but I wasn't feeling particularly generous. I sat in my car for a moment, gathering my courage. Then I grabbed my phone with the incriminating photos and walked to her front door with as much dignity as I could muster. My finger hovered over the doorbell for a second before I pressed it firmly, the cheerful chime at odds with the heaviness in my chest. Amanda opened the door almost immediately, as if she'd been waiting near it. Her expression shifted from neutral to surprised when she saw me. "Brooke," she said, her voice slightly higher than normal. "I was just texting you. Did you get my message?" I stared at her, searching her face for signs of guilt. Her light brown eyes met mine, then darted away briefly before returning. She was nervous about something. "Can I come in?" I asked, my voice steadier than I expected. Of course, she stepped back, opening the door wider. "I was just making tea. Would you like some?" The normality of the offer, tea, like this was any other visit, nearly broke me. I walked past her into the familiar living room where we'd spent countless hours talking, laughing, sharing our deepest secrets. Or so I had thought. "No tea," I said, turning to face her as she closed the door. "I need to talk to you about something important." Amanda tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, another nervous habit I recognized from years of friendship. "Sure, what's up?" she asked, trying to sound casual but not quite succeeding. I decided to rip the band-aid off in one swift motion. "I saw Ryan here today," I said, watching her reaction carefully. "Around 2:30. He used a key to let himself in. A key I didn't know he had." The color drained from Amanda's face. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. Her eyes widened with what looked like genuine alarm. "Brooke, she started, then stopped. "Don't lie to me," I said, my voice finally breaking. "I've had enough lies. I saw him bring you a gift. Green bag, silver tissue paper. Your favorite colors." Amanda sank onto her sofa, her shoulders slumping. The posture of someone caught, I thought bitterly. I remained standing, unwilling to share the intimate space of sitting together as we normally would. "It's not what you think," she finally said, her voice small. "Really?" I laughed, the sound harsh even to my own ears. "Because what I think is that my husband and my best friend have been sneaking around behind my back." "How close am I?" Amanda looked up at me, her eyes filling with tears. "Ryan has been coming over, yes. But not for the reason you're thinking." "Then why the secrecy? Why lie about where he was? Why do you have texts ready to explain why you need to see me urgently? Were you going to confess? Try to soften the blow somehow?" "No." Amanda stood up, her expression desperate. "God, Brooke, we would never do that to you. Ryan has been helping me with something personal. Something I didn't want anyone to know about." I crossed my arms, skepticism evident in every line of my body. "What could possibly be so personal that you couldn't tell me, your best friend, but could tell my husband?" Amanda looked down, her shoulders sagging again. "Financial trouble. After the divorce, Greg left me in a really bad situation. I was too embarrassed to tell you. Ryan's been helping me sort through the mess, giving me financial advice, helping me understand my options." I stared at her, trying to process this information. It wasn't what I'd expected to hear, and I wasn't sure if I believed it. And the key? The gift? The key is because sometimes I'm at work when he drops off documents for me to sign. The gift today was actually. She hesitated, then sighed. It was a small celebration because we finally got everything sorted out with the bank. I didn't want you to know how bad things were, Brooke. I was ashamed. Part of me wanted to believe her. Financial trouble after divorce wasn't uncommon, and Amanda had always been private about money matters. But there were still too many unanswered questions. If that's true, I said slowly, then who is this woman? I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos I'd taken of Ryan with the mystery woman at the jewelry store. Amanda leaned forward, squinting at the screen. Her reaction was not what I expected, her eyes widened in genuine shock. That's Jessica, she said, looking confused. My divorce attorney. I don't understand why they'd be together at a jewelry store. The pieces still weren't fitting together. If Amanda was telling the truth about her financial troubles and Ryan helping her, why would he be meeting her divorce attorney privately? And why at a jewelry store of all places? You expect me to believe that Ryan has been secretly helping you with financial problems, and separately meeting your divorce attorney at a jewelry store? I asked incredulously. That makes no sense, Amanda. Amanda ran her hands through her hair, looking as confused as I felt. I swear to you, Brooke, I have no idea why Ryan would be meeting Jessica. The last time I saw her was 3 months ago when we finalized some paperwork. And I definitely don't know anything about a jewelry store. I studied her face carefully, years of friendship giving me insight into her expressions. Despite my suspicions, I could see genuine confusion and concern in her eyes. Either she was an exceptional actress, or she was telling at least a partial truth. So you're saying Ryan has been helping you financially, in secret, keeping it from me, and has also been meeting your divorce attorney without your knowledge? I summarized, trying to make sense of it all. Amanda nodded slowly. The first part, yes. He's been helping me figure out the mess Greg left me in. But I have no idea about Jessica. That's completely new information to me. The tension in the room shifted subtly. Rather than Amanda and Ryan aligned against me, it now felt like Amanda and I were both trying to understand Ryan's actions. Tell me everything, I said, finally sitting down on the edge of the sofa. From the beginning. When did Ryan start helping you? What exactly has he been doing? Leave nothing out. As Amanda began to explain, I realized that whatever was happening was more complicated than a simple affair. There were still missing pieces to this puzzle, and I was determined to find them all. Amanda took a deep breath and met my eyes directly. It started about 3 months ago. I got a letter from the bank saying I was behind on mortgage payments. Which was impossible, I'd set up automatic payments from the joint account after the divorce. When I called to straighten it out, I discovered Greg had emptied the account 2 days after our divorce was finalized. He'd taken everything, Brooke. Her voice cracked slightly, and despite my anger and suspicion, I felt a flicker of sympathy. Amanda had married Greg right after college. He was a charming investment banker who had swept her off her feet with grand gestures and expensive gifts. Their divorce 3 years ago had been messy, with Greg fighting every step of the way. I was too embarrassed to tell you, she continued. You and Ryan seemed so perfect with your beautiful home and successful careers. I felt like such a failure. I ran into Ryan at that coffee shop on Main Street one afternoon. He was on his lunch break, and I was frantically trying to figure out what to do. I was a mess, crying right there in public. He sat down, asked what was wrong, and I just told him everything. Why didn't you come to me? I asked, the hurt evident in my voice. We've been friends for 15 years, Amanda. I would never have judged you. She shook her head, tears spilling down her cheeks. It wasn't about you judging me. It was about me judging myself. I felt so stupid for not seeing what Greg was capable of, for not protecting myself better. And Ryan was there, with his financial expertise, offering concrete help rather than just sympathy. He said he could help me navigate the legal and financial aspects without me having to pay for expensive consultations. I processed this information slowly. It aligned with Ryan's character. He had always been the type to offer practical solutions rather than emotional support. And his financial knowledge would indeed be valuable in such a situation. So these visits, the key to your house, all of that was related to helping you financially? I asked, still not entirely convinced. Amanda nodded. He would come by with documents for me to sign, explain financial terms I didn't understand, help me create budgets and payment plans. The key was his idea. He said it would be easier if he could drop things off when I was at work rather than coordinating our schedules. I agreed because I was desperate and grateful for the help. And you both decided to keep me completely in the dark about this? The hurt was still there, throbbing beneath my questions. Amanda looked down at her hands. Ryan suggested keeping it between us initially. He said you had been stressed about your mother's health issues and your business expansion, and he didn't want to add to your worries. I agreed because, honestly, it was easier than admitting to you how badly I'd screwed up. He promised it would just be until we got things stabilized, and then we would tell you together. I thought about my mother's recent cancer scare, thankfully just that, a scare, with tests eventually coming back negative, and how consumed I'd been with worry. Ryan had been supportive throughout, taking care of things at home while I made frequent trips to the hospital for my mother's tests and consultations. Had he really been trying to protect me from additional stress? It seemed plausible, though it didn't excuse the deception. That still doesn't explain Jessica, I pointed out. Why would Ryan be meeting your divorce attorney at a jewelry store? Amanda shook her head, looking genuinely perplexed. I honestly don't know. The last time I spoke with Jessica was when we finalized some paperwork about 3 months ago, right around when the financial issues came to light. She's a great attorney, but we haven't kept in touch. A thought occurred to me. Could this be related to your ex-husband somehow? Could Ryan and Jessica be working together on something to do with Greg? Amanda's eyes widened slightly. I don't know. Greg did some questionable things during and after our divorce. Jessica mentioned she had concerns about some of his financial disclosures, but we didn't have the resources to pursue it further at the time. This new angle made me think about Ryan's behavior in a different light. What if he wasn't having an affair at all, but investigating Amanda's ex-husband for some reason? It still didn't explain all the secrecy, but it cast his actions in a potentially less devastating light. There's something else, I said slowly, remembering a detail I'd discovered recently but hadn't thought much about. Last week, I was looking for a receipt in Ryan's office and found a payment confirmation for a storage unit. We don't have a storage unit, Amanda. At least, not one that I know about. The payments go back 3 months. Exactly when you say this all started. Amanda looked as confused as I felt. A storage unit? I don't know anything about that. Ryan never mentioned it to me. We sat in silence for a moment, both trying to piece together this increasingly complex puzzle. I need to see what's in that storage unit, I finally said. And I need to understand why Ryan is meeting with your divorce attorney. Amanda nodded, her expression resolute. I'll help you. Whatever's going on, we'll figure it out together. And Brooke, she reached for my hand hesitantly, I'm so sorry for not being honest with you from the beginning. I was embarrassed and scared, but that's no excuse. You deserved better from both of us. I looked at her hand on mine, thinking about our years of friendship. Despite the hurt and betrayal I felt, my instincts were telling me Amanda wasn't lying, at least not about her financial troubles and Ryan's assistance. There was clearly more to the story, but perhaps not the affair I'd initially feared. Let me call Jessica, Amanda suggested, reaching for her phone. Maybe she can shed some light on why she was meeting with Ryan. As Amanda dialed, I thought about the small bag Ryan had received at the jewelry store. What had he purchased? And why was he there with Jessica of all people? None of it made sense yet, but I was beginning to think the truth might be very different from what I'd initially feared. Amanda put the phone on speaker as it rang. After 3 rings, a professional voice answered, Jessica Moore speaking. Jessica, it's Amanda Patterson. I'm calling because, well, this is going to sound strange, but were you meeting with my friend's husband, Ryan Wilson, at Ellis Fine Jewelry today? There was a pause on the other end of the line. Amanda, Jessica finally said, her voice cautious, I don't think I can discuss that with you. Client confidentiality. Amanda and I exchanged puzzled looks. Client confidentiality? Amanda repeated. But Ryan isn't your client. I am. Another pause. I really can't discuss this over the phone. If you want to schedule an appointment, my assistant can find a time for us to meet. This is important, Jessica, Amanda pressed. I'm here with Brooke, Ryan's wife. She saw you with Ryan today, and we're trying to understand what's going on. Jessica sighed audibly. Look, I understand your confusion, but there are legal implications here that I can't ignore. The best I can tell you is that Ryan has been acting in your best interest, Amanda. And no laws or ethical boundaries have been crossed. Beyond that, you really need to talk to Ryan directly. Before Amanda could respond, Jessica added, I'm sorry, but I have another call coming in. If you want to meet tomorrow, call my office in the morning. With that, she hung up. Amanda stared at the phone in her hand. Well, that was weird and unhelpful. I nodded, my mind racing. She said Ryan has been acting in your best interest. And mentioned legal implications. What if? I hesitated, a new theory forming. What if Ryan discovered something about Greg? Something legally problematic? Amanda considered this. It's possible. Greg always operated in gray areas financially. It's part of why our divorce was so contentious. I wanted full financial disclosure, and he fought it every step of the way. And Jessica mentioned client confidentiality, I added. What if Ryan hired her for some reason related to Greg's financial dealings? But why wouldn't he tell us? Amanda asked. I thought about it. Legal reasons, maybe? Or perhaps he wanted proof before bringing it to you? We were interrupted by my phone buzzing with a text. It was from Ryan, working late tonight. Don't wait up. Love you. Another lie. I showed Amanda the message. We need to find out what's in that storage unit, I said firmly. That might give us answers that Jessica won't. Amanda nodded, determination replacing the confusion on her face. When can we go? Now, I said, standing up. I found the key in Ryan's desk last week. I thought it was just for a filing cabinet or something, but it has the storage company's logo on it. As we prepared to leave, I realized that my day had taken yet another unexpected turn. Instead of confronting my husband's affair with my best friend, I was now partnering with that same friend to uncover whatever secret Ryan was keeping from both of us. Whatever we found at that storage unit, I knew one thing for certain, my relationship with Ryan would never be the same again. The storage facility was on the outskirts of town, a sprawling complex of identical orange doors set into white concrete buildings. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows between the rows as Amanda and I drove through the security gate, using the code I'd found written on the back of the receipt from Ryan's office. Unit 247, I said, checking the paperwork again. Should be in Building C according to this map. Amanda drove slowly through the narrow lanes, both of us scanning the numbers on the doors. The facility was quiet, with only a couple of other cars parked near distant units. The silence between us was heavy with anticipation and anxiety. There, Amanda pointed to a door with 247 stenciled in black. She pulled into the empty space in front of it and turned off the engine. I held the key tightly in my palm, suddenly hesitant. What would we find behind that door? Financial records? Evidence of an affair I hadn't yet uncovered? Or something else entirely? Whatever it was, Ryan had gone to great lengths to keep it secret. Ready? Amanda asked softly. I nodded, though I wasn't sure if I was ready at all. We approached the unit, and I inserted the key into the padlock. It turned easily, confirming this was indeed the right unit. I removed the lock, took a deep breath, and lifted the rolling door. The unit was smaller than I'd expected, about the size of a walk-in closet. As the door rolled up, the interior was revealed, not the random assortment of personal items I might have expected, but something much more organized. Metal shelving units lined the walls, filled with neatly labeled file boxes. A small desk and chair sat in the center, with a laptop closed on top of it. "What is all this?" Amanda whispered, stepping inside. I followed her, equally bewildered. This looked like some kind of makeshift office or research space. I approached the nearest shelf and read the labels on the boxes: Patterson vs. Patterson Financial Disclosures, Willoughby Investments Client List, Offshore Accounts Documentation. "Patterson, that's your married name," I said to Amanda. "These are files from your divorce." Amanda was already opening one of the boxes, pulling out folders filled with documents. "These aren't copies of my divorce papers," she said, her voice tight with confusion. "These are financial records for Greg's company. Balance sheets, client lists, transaction records. I never saw most of these during the divorce proceedings." I moved to the desk and opened the laptop. It was password protected, of course. I tried Ryan's usual password, our anniversary date, but it didn't work. I tried a few other combinations we commonly used, with no success. "Look at this," Amanda called from where she was examining another box. She held up a folder labeled Willoughby Investments Client List Wilson, RNM. "Wilson, RNM?" I repeated. "Robert and Margaret Wilson, my parents?" Amanda nodded, her expression grave. "Brooke, your parents are listed as clients of Greg's investment firm." This made no sense. My parents had never mentioned investing with Greg's firm. They were conservative with their retirement savings, preferring established banks and low-risk investments. They would have told me if they were working with Amanda's ex-husband. I took the folder from her and flipped through the pages. There it was in black and white, my parents' names, addresses, account numbers, and substantial investment amounts. "I didn't know they had accounts with Greg," I said, my voice faint. "This is their retirement money, Amanda. Almost all of it, according to these figures." "And look at these transaction records," Amanda said, pointing to a column of dates and amounts. "Large withdrawals, all within the last 6 months. But the quarterly statements don't show these withdrawals." She pulled out another document from the folder. "According to this statement, which would have been what your parents received, their investment is still intact and growing." A cold feeling settled in my stomach. "Are you saying Greg is stealing from his clients? From my parents?" Amanda's expression was grim. "It looks like it. And not just your parents. Look at these other folders: Johnson, Patel, Hernandez, dozens of clients with similar discrepancies." We spent the next hour examining the files, piecing together a disturbing picture. Greg Patterson, Amanda's ex-husband, appeared to be running a sophisticated fraud operation through his investment firm. He was taking money from clients' accounts, including my parents, while sending them falsified statements showing their investments were secure and growing. This is why Ryan has been meeting with Jessica, I realized. She's not just your divorce attorney, she specializes in financial fraud cases. I remember you mentioning that when you hired her. And Ryan discovered this while helping me with my financial problems, Amanda added. He must have noticed something suspicious in the paperwork from my divorce. But why keep it secret from us? I asked, still troubled by the deception. Legal reasons, probably, Amanda suggested. If they're building a case against Greg, they wouldn't want to risk tipping him off. And Jessica would have advised Ryan to keep it quiet until they had sufficient evidence. That made sense, but it didn't completely excuse the lies and secrecy. Ryan could have told me something, especially when it involved my own parents' financial security. As we continued examining the files, my phone rang. It was Ryan. I stared at the screen, uncertain whether to answer. You should talk to him, Amanda urged. But don't let on what we've found. Not yet. I nodded and answered the call. Hello? Hey, babe, Ryan's voice came through, casual and normal as if this were any other day. Just checking in. I'll be working late tonight, so don't wait up for dinner. The familiar lie made anger surge through me, but I kept my voice steady. Okay. Anything special you're working on? Just the Miller account, he said smoothly. Lots of paperwork to go through. How was your day? Enlightening, I replied, unable to keep a hint of edge from my voice. I'll tell you all about it when you get home. There was a slight pause. Everything okay? We'll talk later, I said. I should go. I'm having dinner with Amanda. Another pause. Amanda? Is she okay? She's fine. We're catching up on some things. Bye, Ryan. I hung up before he could ask more questions. Amanda was watching me with concern. He suspects something. Good, I said firmly. I'm done with secrets and lies. It's time for the truth, all of it. I gestured to the storage unit full of evidence. We need to take photos of all of this, then put everything back exactly as we found it. Then I'm going home to confront my husband. By the time I arrived home, it was after 8 p.m. Despite what Ryan had told me about working late, his car was in the driveway. I sat in my car for a moment, gathering my courage and organizing my thoughts. I had decided to approach this confrontation methodically, not letting emotion cloud my judgment. I walked into our home, finding Ryan in his home office. He looked up in surprise when I entered. Brooke. I thought you were having dinner with Amanda. We finished early, I said, setting my purse down on his desk. I remained standing, maintaining the psychological advantage of height. I thought you were working late on the Miller account. Ryan's expression shifted slightly, a minute tell that I might not have noticed if I hadn't been looking for it. I wrapped up earlier than expected. No, you didn't, I said calmly. There is no Miller account, is there, Ryan? He stared at me, clearly trying to decide how to respond. I didn't give him the chance. I saw you today, I continued. At Amanda's house. And later, at Ellis Fine Jewelry with Jessica Moore. The color drained from Ryan's face. Brooke, I can explain. I certainly hope so, I interrupted, pulling out my phone. I scrolled to the photos we'd taken at the storage unit and placed the phone in front of him. Because I'd also like you to explain this. Ryan looked at the phone, then back at me, shock evident in his expression. You found the storage unit? Yes. Amanda and I spent quite some time there this afternoon. Very educational. He slumped back in his chair, running a hand through his hair. This isn't how I wanted you to find out. And how exactly did you want me to find out that my husband has been investigating my best friend's ex-husband for financial fraud? Fraud that apparently involves my parents' retirement savings? My voice was rising despite my efforts to stay calm. I was trying to protect you, Ryan said, his voice pleading. All of you. Your parents, Amanda, even you. I couldn't risk Greg finding out about the investigation before we had enough evidence. So you lied to me. 4 months. Made me think you were having an affair, or worse, that you and Amanda were betraying me together. Ryan's eyes widened. You thought Amanda and I were? No, Brooke, never. I would never do that to you. What was I supposed to think? I demanded. You were suddenly secretive, protective of your phone, working late, disappearing for hours. Then I see you using a key to enter Amanda's house with a gift bag. What conclusion would any reasonable person draw? Ryan looked genuinely distressed. I didn't think about how it would look. I was so focused on gathering evidence against Greg before he could hide the money or destroy records. Jessica says he's already moved millions offshore. And Jessica, I said. Why were you meeting her at a jewelry store of all places? Ryan reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Because of this, he said, opening it to reveal a delicate silver bracelet with a small charm. It's for you. For our anniversary next week. Jessica was helping me pick it out because she knows the owner of the store, they're old friends from law school. She got me a discount. I stared at the bracelet, momentarily thrown off balance by this mundane explanation. But I quickly refocused. That's beside the point, Ryan. You've been lying to me for months about something that directly affects my family. My parents could lose everything. That's exactly why I kept it quiet, Ryan insisted. If Greg had any idea we were onto him, he would have accelerated moving the money offshore where we couldn't recover it. I discovered it by accident when I was helping Amanda with her finances. I noticed discrepancies in some of the divorce settlement documents, things that didn't add up. Then I remembered your parents mentioning they had investments with Willoughby, and I got worried. So you decided to play detective instead of telling me or my parents or the actual authorities? I did go to the authorities, Ryan said. But white-collar crime investigations take time, and they needed solid evidence before they could move. Jessica has been working with the FBI as legal counsel on the case. That's why she couldn't tell Amanda anything over the phone. She's bound by confidentiality agreements related to the investigation. I paced the room, trying to process everything. And the storage unit? A secure place to keep copies of all the evidence we've gathered. The originals are with the FBI, but Jessica suggested keeping backups in case anything happened. We couldn't risk keeping them at her office or our homes where Greg might somehow discover them. It all made a terrible kind of sense. Ryan's intentions had been good, he'd been trying to protect my family's financial security and help Amanda. But the secrecy, the lies, the sneaking around, it had all created a breach of trust that wouldn't be easily repaired. I understand why you did it, I finally said. But I don't understand why you didn't trust me enough to tell me. Ryan stood up and approached me cautiously. It wasn't about not trusting you. The fewer people who knew, the safer the investigation. And you were already dealing with so much with your mother's health scare and your business expansion. I didn't want to add to your stress until we had actually recovered the money. That wasn't your decision to make, I said firmly. These are my parents we're talking about. And Amanda is my best friend. You took away my agency in a situation that directly affects the people I love most. Ryan nodded, his expression contrite. You're right. I was so focused on solving the problem that I didn't consider how my secrecy would affect you. I'm sorry, Brooke. Truly. I looked at my husband, this man I'd loved and trusted for a decade, and felt a complicated mix of emotions. Relief that he wasn't having an affair, anger at his deception, concern for my parents and Amanda, and uncertainty about where we went from here. What happens now? I asked. With Greg, with the investigation? The FBI is planning to move within the week, Ryan explained. They have enough evidence now to arrest Greg and freeze his assets. With luck, they'll be able to recover most of the money he's stolen, including your parents. I nodded, processing this information. I need to tell my parents. Of course, Ryan agreed. Now that you know, there's no reason they shouldn't know too. We can go see them tomorrow if you want. No, I said firmly. I will go see them tomorrow. I need some time to think about everything. I moved toward the door, then turned back. I'm going to stay at my sister's tonight. I need space to process all of this. Ryan looked pained but nodded. I understand. For what it's worth, I really am sorry, Brooke. I thought I was doing the right thing. I know you did, I acknowledged. But good intentions don't erase the fact that you lied to me for months. Trust is the foundation of our marriage, and right now, that foundation is severely damaged. As I packed an overnight bag, I thought about how quickly life could change. This morning, I had believed my marriage was nearly perfect. Then I'd suspected my husband was having an affair with my best friend. Now I knew he had been investigating financial fraud to protect my family, but had broken my trust in the process. I wasn't sure what the future held for Ryan and me, but I knew one thing for certain, nothing would ever be quite the same again. 2 weeks passed before I moved back home. Those 14 days at my sister Melissa's apartment gave me the space I needed to sort through my feelings about Ryan's deception, no matter how well-intentioned it had been. Melissa listened without judgment as I talked through the complex emotions: relief that Ryan hadn't betrayed me romantically, anger at being kept in the dark, and hurt that he hadn't trusted me enough to include me in something so important. "He was trying to protect you," Melissa said one evening as we shared a bottle of wine on her small balcony. "Men often think protection means shielding us from problems rather than facing them together." "That's exactly it," I agreed. "He was solving the problem rather than sharing it." But marriage isn't about one person carrying burdens alone. It's about partnership. During those 2 weeks, Ryan respected my need for space while still making it clear he wanted to repair our relationship. He sent thoughtful texts checking in without pressuring me to come home. He delivered a handwritten letter each day, explaining his thought process during the investigation, acknowledging where he'd gone wrong, and expressing his commitment to rebuilding our trust. "I realize now that in trying to protect you from one type of pain, I caused another," he wrote in one letter. "I thought I was being strong by handling this alone, but true strength would have been trusting in our relationship enough to share this burden with you." I had daily conversations with Amanda as well. The discovery of Greg's fraud had thrown her into a tailspin of her own. Learning that her ex-husband had been stealing from vulnerable clients, including my parents, made her question whether she had ever truly known him at all. "I keep thinking back to our marriage," she told me over coffee. "Were there signs I missed? Could I have prevented this somehow?" "This is not your fault," I assured her firmly. "Greg made his choices, and he hid them from everyone, including financial regulators and the FBI. You couldn't have known." The FBI had moved quickly after Ryan and Jessica turned over all their evidence. Greg was arrested at his office in a dramatic raid that made the local news. The authorities froze all his assets, including the offshore accounts they could trace, and began the painstaking process of determining how much had been stolen and from whom. My parents took the news better than I expected when I visited them the day after discovering the truth. My father, always practical, was more concerned with whether they would recover their money than with Greg's betrayal. "These things happen in the financial world," he said with surprising calm. "That's why there are regulations and safeguards." My mother was more emotional, not about the money, but about what Ryan had done to protect them. "He was looking out for us," she insisted. "Yes, he should have told you, but his heart was in the right place." Hearing my parents' perspective helped me see the situation more clearly. Ryan had made a significant mistake in keeping me in the dark, but he had been trying to protect the people I loved. The challenge now was finding a way forward that acknowledged both the good intentions and the breach of trust. After 2 weeks of reflection, I decided it was time to go home. Ryan was surprised when I walked in the door with my suitcase that evening. "Brooke," he said, his voice hopeful but cautious. "I wasn't expecting you." "I know," I replied, setting my bag down. "But I'm ready to talk about where we go from here." We sat at our kitchen table, the familiar setting a reminder of all the ordinary moments we'd shared in our marriage: morning coffees, dinner conversations, weekend crossword puzzles. "How do you rebuild something as intangible yet essential as trust?" "I've been thinking a lot about why the secrecy hurts so much," I began. "It's not just that you kept information from me. It's that you made decisions that affected me and the people I love without including me. You took away my agency." Ryan nodded, his expression solemn. "I understand that now. I was so focused on solving the problem that I didn't consider how my methods would affect you. I thought I was protecting you, but I was actually excluding you from something important." "I need to know that won't happen again," I said. "That when difficult situations arise in the future, we'll face them together, even if that's more complicated or stressful in the moment." "I promise," Ryan said, reaching cautiously for my hand across the table. "No more secrets, no matter how well-intentioned. Complete transparency going forward." I took his hand, feeling both the familiarity of his touch and the newness of this moment. We were establishing different parameters for our relationship, ones that would require conscious effort to maintain. I think we should see a marriage counselor, I suggested. Not because our marriage is failing, but because we need better tools for communication. We need to understand why you defaulted to secrecy and why I jumped to the worst conclusion. Ryan agreed immediately. I'll find someone tomorrow. Whatever it takes to rebuild what I damaged. The following weeks brought gradual healing. We found a couples therapist who specialized in communication issues and began weekly sessions. Dr. Linden helped us establish new patterns of openness and vulnerability, encouraging Ryan to share problems rather than trying to solve everything independently, and helping me express my needs more clearly. The FBI investigation into Greg's fraud continued, with Ryan and Jessica providing ongoing assistance. This time, though, Ryan kept me fully informed, sharing updates as they came in and including me in any decisions that might affect our family. My friendship with Amanda deepened through the shared experience. We had both been kept in the dark about different aspects of the situation, and we bonded over our determination to reclaim our agency and rebuild trust with the people in our lives. 6 months after that fateful Tuesday when I spotted Ryan's car near Amanda's house, Greg's case was brought to a resolution. He pleaded guilty to multiple counts of fraud and was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. More importantly for the victims, the FBI managed to recover about 80% of the stolen funds, including most of my parents' retirement savings. The day we received confirmation that my parents' money had been returned to them, Ryan and I celebrated with a quiet dinner at home. As we sat on our back patio, watching the sunset and sharing a bottle of wine, I reflected on how far we had come. You know, I said, 6 months ago I would have said trust once broken can never be fully repaired. But I don't think that's true anymore. Ryan looked at me questioningly, a hopeful expression in his eyes. I think sometimes trust can be rebuilt even stronger, I continued. Because now it's not blind trust or assumed trust. It's trust that's been tested, examined, and consciously reconstructed. Ryan reached for my hand. I will never take your trust for granted again, Brooke. These past months have taught me that protecting someone sometimes means trusting them with the truth, even when that truth is difficult. I smiled, feeling the warmth of reconnection between us. Our marriage wasn't perfect, no relationship ever is, but it was honest now in a way it hadn't been before. We had learned the hard way that true intimacy requires vulnerability and complete transparency, not well-intentioned protection or problem-solving in isolation. As darkness fell and stars appeared above us, I thought about the unexpected journey we'd taken. A moment of suspicion had led to discovery, pain, separation, and ultimately, growth. The foundation of our relationship had been shaken, but in rebuilding it, we had created something more resilient and true. Sometimes, I said softly, we have to face our worst fears to find our way to something better. Ryan squeezed my hand in silent agreement as we sat together in the growing darkness, two people who had found their way back to each other through honesty and hard work, ready to face whatever challenges came next, together. If my story resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever experienced a breach of trust that ultimately led to a stronger relationship? What helped you rebuild that connection? Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to hear more stories about overcoming challenges in relationships and finding strength through difficult times. Thank you for listening, and remember that even in our darkest moments, growth and healing are possible when we commit to honest communication and mutual respect.